I was pretty impressed actually about St. Pete. I didn't think that St. Pete was necessarily going to put on the greatest racing, but I was pleasantly surprised. So that will get us started. Let's move on to the truck series. That's what we'll start with here today. I overall enjoyed the race. I thought it was very entertaining. The truck series maybe should go back next year. I wouldn't be opposed to it because overall I was pleasantly surprised. I personally shat on the idea of NASCAR going to St. Pete when we had the schedule release last year. Some of you may have saw that video when we had the schedule release. We were all, I think we were all kind of upset because the Cup Series and the Rally Series is going to Coda, but then you're bringing the trucks to the streets of St. Petersburg. I thought it was the most random, most stupidest thing at the time, but I got to take some of that back. I got to take some of that back because overall it was a very entertaining weekend. And if we didn't have the double, we wouldn't have had someone like Dario Franchitti or James Hinchcliffe in the field. And that's what I really want to start with talking about is these special guests that we had in St. Pete for the Craftsman Truck Series. We had Dario Franchitti running out just outside the top 5, running in the top 10 most of the day. By the end of the day, his truck was pretty damaged, plus his body was completely worn out. You had James Hinchcliffe, who was running top 10 most of the day. He also got caught up in a couple of incidents and still managed to come back to get a top 10. You had Adam Andretti, who showed decent speed, but unfortunately got taken out by Christian Eckes fairly early on in the event. I feel like he would have gotten a top 15 if that didn't happen. And then Colin Braun was just methodically moving through the field all day in that number 25 all-star colleague Ram machine. He looked pretty strong as well. He ended up getting a top 10 as well. And I want to get the boys' thoughts on this. I guess I'll start with Tyler on this one. Tyler, first of all, how did you feel about St. Pete and the special guests being at St. Pete? And then are there any of these drivers that really stood out to you?
It was definitely a cool race. I mean, the whole atmosphere was cool. The whole look of the entire track was cool, but I'm still iffy about separating the trucks from everybody else.
Yeah, I
I'm
get
not a
that.
fan of it. I just and the competition between these two series was a little bit too much for me. It just I get it. It was definitely cool. Like the guest drivers and all, that was definitely a cool experience. He definitely kept himself out there in the top, like you said, in the top. Showed he's got wheel talent, all of that. But he also showed that those NASCAR boys are a lot more in shape than people give them credit for. So that was definitely cool to see, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was cool watching Dario. You could tell near the end of that race. I don't know if any of you saw it, but they panned to his in-car camera, and he was just like grabbing his shoulder. He seemed like in some heavy discomfort. I'm pretty sure he even had an ice pack in there at one point, icing down his shoulder. He was clearly in a lot of pain because he hasn't been in a car for so long. He hasn't raced in a car for over 10 years, and you immediately get into a car, and it's not just like an Indy car at an oval or a not very difficult road course. It's at a very difficult street course in a vehicle he's not at all used to. So the balls on Dario Franchitti to even go out there and attempt it and then run top 10, top 5 pretty much all race long is extremely impressive. And he was the standout for me personally was Dario. Like Jimmy Hinch, Braun, Andretti, they all did very well, but the standout for me had to be Dario Franchitti for sure. I want to see all 4 of these guys come back pretty soon. And you made a very good point there, Tyler, and that would probably be my big knock on the St. Petersburg event. I don't really like separating the series personally. I think the only time I'm okay with them separating the series is if they're racing a track that's also local to the main track, like what they do with Indianapolis weekend when they go to Indianapolis Raceway Park. I'm personally a fan of that. I like that because that you can still keep your competitive pit stops. Plus, it promotes the area. Like people can go to that Truck Series race and be like, "Oh man, that was a great time." Well, the really good drivers are going to be at the big oval at Indianapolis Motor Speedway in 2 days. You should go to that race too. And they're like, "Yeah, I'm gonna buy tickets." So I personally like that. So I guess that would probably be my big knock on it. And also, I'd rather go to Road America. That's my other big knock on it. But Corey, how do we feel about St. Pete and our special guests that we had in St. Pete? Are there any of them that really stood out to you over the others?
That was my first time watching a race at St. Pete, and I was
Okay.
impressed. I thought it was a beautiful course. I thought the trucks did well there. I thought it was a good visual, good watch as a fan. And then I think you hit the nail on the head with the Dario Franchitti talk. Like watching him just stay around the top five all day was super impressive. And then obviously you saw the pain he was going through, like if you watched the whole race, and he clearly wasn't having the most fun, but he was still
He was still
being
having fun,
super
but not having
competitive.
fun.
Correct. Yeah, and you saw, and then nothing was like seeing him, Jimmy Johnson, just be next to
Mario
each other
Andretti.
after the race, like, and yeah, exactly. He's like having all of them there. Like, what an iconic like moment for NASCAR in general. But I agree with what you and Tyler have said. Like, I'm not a fan of them splitting the series to different locations in the same weekend. Like, it's just like if I buy a ticket or if I want to see all the three races for a weekend, I or how do I better say it? I say like
Keep
if
them
all three
local.
series are racing, I want to be able to see them in person, like that whole weekend. Like that's kind of the perk of NASCAR too, is to be able to watch all of the series. So having two in one location and one on the other side of the country is kind of shit. And I mean, but that's nothing against St. Pete. That's just bad scheduling.
Yeah, and they really wanted to get this double in for IndyCar, and then we have another IndyCar double this next week, back to back IndyCar doubles. I find that pretty interesting with Phoenix this upcoming weekend, and yeah, that would probably be my big knock on it too. I just feel like if they're all racing, they should either all be racing at the same racetrack or at least racing locally, like they're in the same sort of vicinity within like I don't know, like 100 miles of each other or something. Like, I like what they do with Indianapolis Motor Speedway and IRP Indianapolis Raceway Park. I really like what they end up doing for those races. And I wouldn't, because I've said it on this channel many times, I want the truck series to go to a lot more short tracks because that's what the truck series was built off back when it was the Craftsman Super Trucks series. That's what it was built off of. Just race. They used to race in here in Tucson. Like, I don't know if either you know that, but the truck series used to race at Tucson Speedway and stuff like that. It used to race at just short tracks. And I would love for the truck series to get back to that. And I've kind of given up hope on that. I don't think it's going to ever happen. So I'm just kind of going with the flow. And overall, I enjoyed St. Petersburg weekend as a whole. I watched the IndyCar series race as well. That was a very good race. And honestly, the track is a lot more spacious than I thought it would be. It's a street course, but it was a little more spacious and more passing zones than I honestly expected for the truck series. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Are there any of the special guests from St. Pete, whether it's Dario Franchitti, James Hinchcliffe, Adam Andretti, or Colin Braun, that ended up standing out to you? And overall, how did you feel about the St. Pete weekend with the trucks and the IndyCar series sharing the same street course?